Hi everyone, my name is Monique, and today I'm going to be showing you how to play a game that is currently on Gamefound called Steam Power, designed by Martin Wallace and published by Wallace Designs, who are helping sponsor this video. In Steam Power, players compete to build their own rail networks and fulfill contracts in order to earn the most amount of victory points by the end of the game. This is a game for 2 to 5 players that plays in about 60 minutes, and so today I'm going to be showing you how to play it. But before I begin, I do need to mention that everything that you see here is considered a prototype copy of the game, which means things are subject to change in the future. For more information regarding the game, as well as the campaign, I've included a link to their Gamefound in the description below. Last but not least, if you enjoy content like this and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing. And with that, we are ready to begin. So, if you'd please direct your attention to the center of the table, we're all set up here for a 3-player game of Steam Power. Welcome to the Midwestern United States. Now, just to kind of give you the lay of the land, in the middle here, we have one of the 3 cloth maps that'll come with the game. And across the map are these tiles that are randomly distributed during setup, and these represent the various cities on the map that we're going to be connecting via railways in order to build factories, ship goods, and fulfill our contracts. Now, these city tiles come in 5 different colors, 4 of which correspond to the 4 different types of goods that we're going to be shipping throughout the game, as well as purple city tiles that will score players points just for being connected to them by the end of the game. Now, I do need to mention that considering this is a prototype copy of the game, changes have already been made for the final copy, including the colors for the white goods that I have corresponding to the white cities. In the prototype, the goods are a bit beige, but in the final version, they're going to be closer to the white color, as you can see here. In addition, changes will be made to the bags that'll come with the game, as well as some of the colors that you'll see. This is a more accurate representation of what you'll see in the final version of the game. And so the way that the game works is starting with the first player, players will be taking turns, taking 2 actions each until the end game trigger has been met, which is going to be when one player fulfills a certain number of contracts depending on player count. Now in this game, there are 5 different types of actions that you can take, but again, on your turn, you're only choosing 2. The first type of action that you can take allows you to build up to 2 track on the map. If it's your first time laying track, you are required to place it adjacent to a city that's on the map, just like that. And I would indicate that this track is mine by placing one of my trains on it. This is now the start of my own railway network. So from now on, whenever I go to build track, I must always continue to elongate my network. So for my second track placement, I could place one right here because it is connecting to a city that I'm already connected to. Although, since this track does not connect to another city, this is considered an incomplete link. Now, players are only allowed to have at most 1 incomplete link at any given time, which means the next time I go to build track, I'm required to continue this one until I complete it by connecting it to another city. Now, in building track, there are some additional rules. When building on plain spaces, these are free to build, but when building on spaces that contain this type of hilly terrain, this is going to cost you $2 per space. In addition, some maps will have a mountainous terrain, which are even more expensive, costing $4 per space. You'll also notice that there are spaces that contain water, and these can never be built upon. The exception are these river spaces, which are here just for aesthetics. You are allowed to build on them as normal. And another important rule is that in this game, players are never allowed to share tracks, which means the only player who's allowed to complete this link is purple. Now, in building track, if your incomplete link becomes blocked, or you decide you no longer want that link, instead of building a track, you can choose to either remove the link or replace it with a different one, neither of which costs any money. But keep in mind that you can only remove or replace the last track placed in that incomplete link, and once it's been completed, you can no longer alter it. Alternatively, you can choose to replace blocked track sections with crossing track tiles. Doing so always costs $2, regardless of the type of terrain that it was placed on. But again, completed links may never be altered, which means you always have to keep the direction that the track was in. Now, in order to complete contracts, we'll need to fill the map with goods. And so the next type of action allows you to build a factory onto one of the city tiles that at least one player's network is connected to. So in this example, the red player can place their factory on this city because at least one player is connected to it. And when building a factory, you also place 5 goods of the city type on the city tile, which in this case is the black good. Each city tile can only hold one player's factory, except for the purple victory point city tiles, which cannot be built on. And building a factory never costs you any money or resources. Now that a few tracks have been built and there are some goods spread around the map, it is time to fulfill contracts. And so the next type of action allows you to fulfill one contract by turning in all of the goods on the left in one turn, which means you cannot piecemeal these goods. All of the goods need to be present on the map, and you need to be able to afford to deliver them to your network in order to fulfill the contract. In this example, the yellow player's contract requires them to turn in 1 orange and 2 black goods. When taking this action, you first have to calculate how much it's going to cost to bring those required goods to your network. Now, yellow's network currently goes from this city, ending all the way over here in this city where they have a black factory. They also have a factory over here that produces orange goods, but it is not currently connected to their network. So then, any goods that come from your own factories are free. But each link that you have to transport them across in order to get to your own network, you must pay the owner of that link $1 per connection. In this example, the orange good required comes from yellow's factory, which is free. But in order to get the orange good to their network, they have to cross one link that is owned by the purple player, which means the yellow player would have to pay $1 to the purple player. On the other hand, the 2 black goods are owned by the yellow player's factory and are already connected to the yellow player's network, which means both goods are free. But when fulfilling the contract, all of the goods required go back to the supply. And any rewards listed on the tile are taken immediately, which in this case is $2 as well as 2 bonus build actions. Any bonus actions listed on the tiles must be taken immediately or forfeited, and any victory points shown on the tiles will be scored at the end of the game. Now in this example, yellow has another contract that requires them to turn in 2 black and 2 gray goods. As of right now, the only gray goods on the map belong to the purple player's factory. Similar to the links, any goods owned by another player's factory requires you to pay them $1 per good. They would need to pay a total of $3 per gray good. $1 to the purple player for owning that factory, and $2 to the red player, $1 per link needed to deliver to yellow's network. Fortunately, just like in the previous example, the black goods would be free because yellow's factory still has black goods next to it. Now, some maps will feature city tiles that are next to each other, and these cities are considered adjacent as long as at least one player has a network connected to one of these cities. And when fulfilling contracts, if any of the required resources are impossible because either they are not present on the board or they are not connected at all to your network, then you can pay $5 in place of them. But if the required resource is present, but you cannot afford to bring it to your network, you cannot take advantage of this rule. Now, once all of the factory's resources have been delivered, you flip over the city tile, and at the end of the game, the player who owns the factory on that tile will score 2 victory points. So as you can see, in this game, players should build their factories strategically, placing them on city tiles that'll earn them the most amount of money, and eventually allow them to flip over their tile, scoring them the 2 points. And some additional bonus actions that you'll see as contract rewards include gaining more contract tiles from the bag, and the ability to build a factory on a city tile and place between 4 and 6 goods instead of 5. And those are the main types of actions that you'll be primarily taking throughout the game. Now, when you feel like you need more contracts, you can take the next type of action that allows you to draw 2 new contract tiles from the bag, again, keeping them hidden from other players. And if ever the bag runs out of contract tiles, then you would draw these from the player who has the most. And if you ever need more money, then you can take the last action, which lets you gain $3 from the bank. And those are the 5 different types of actions that you'll see in the game. But again, on your turn, you're only taking 2. Play proceeds this way, with players taking 2 actions each until the endgame trigger has been met, which is going to be when one player completes a certain number of contracts depending on player count, 11 contracts in a 3-player game. At that point, you would finish out the round so that players would have had an equal number of turns, and then you go into endgame scoring. At the end of the game, players will earn 1 victory point for every $5 left in their supply. They'll earn the points awarded on their fulfilled contracts. They'll earn 2 victory points for each of their factories that are on flipped city tiles. And lastly, each 4 victory point city tile will distribute its points amongst all players who are connected to it. So in this example, because purple and yellow are both connected to the city tile, they will each score 2 victory points. And at that point, whoever has the most victory points wins. And that is essentially how you play Steam Power. Now again, this game is currently on Gamefound. So for more information regarding the game, as well as the campaign, I've included a link to their Gamefound in the description below. Otherwise, if you have any questions about anything that you saw here, please feel free to leave me a comment down below and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you all so much for watching the video. I really hope it was helpful. If you enjoy content like this and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing. Thank you. Bye.